Welcome to the Clutch Kitten Gaming Podcast, where I play an indie game for 5 hours and let you know whether or not it's worth your time and money. Hello and welcome everyone. This is James, also known as Clutch Kitten, and I am so excited because today I get to share an incredibly fun interview that I recently had. Before we get to that though, I have a bit of bad news, which is accompanied by a lot of good news. The bad news is that I was so excited about talking with this individual that I forgot to hit record. Thankfully, the good news is that I noticed about 4 minutes in, so we didn't lose all that much content. That being said, the interview starts somewhat abruptly, but most of what you missed was just me introducing my guest. Today you're going to be hearing my interview with the one and only Kai, who is also known as Captain Dangerous. I originally learned about her through her insanely cute pictures on Instagram, but then she was also featured in an issue of the Game Informer magazine earlier this year. After both of those things, I knew that I wanted to have her on the show, so I was pleasantly surprised when she agreed to join. Our conversation starts off with Kylie explaining the origin of the name Captain Dangerous. Let's jump right in.
So when I was growing up, I used to babysit these kids, and they kind of all looked up to me as their like bigger sister, and they would call me Captain as like the leader of like everyone. And we used to kind of come up with these funny like superhero names, and they called me Captain Dangerous because I was always kind of doing like wild, like crazy stuff, just how it was, and it stuck. And so ever since then, ever since I kind of started like having anything online or socially or any gaming accounts, like Captain Dangerous has stuck for over a decade. Like it's
Oh my
always been
word.
my thing. And like people call me Captain, and it's just how it's been. But yeah, I definitely give credit to the awesome little kids I used to take care of for giving me my very awesome name. It sounds way more epic than I actually am as a person. So,
Oh. Do you still talk with them about it today? Like,
oh
is that
yes, yes.
I like it.
They all still remember all the stuff I used to do. I used to like tell them stories, and like we actually used to pretend that we were characters from video games. I grew up near the woods, and we used to like dress up and go on like quests. We're
That
very
is
nerdy,
awesome.
but no, they loved it. We like had like our own character. It was honestly like real life D&D is what it was, with just like
Yeah.
all of us. Yeah, it was really fun. But no, they still remember it. I actually had one of them message me not too long ago, telling me that they saw something that had reminded them of stuff I used to do, and it was very similar to like parents dressing up with their kids and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, "Oh," I was like so touched.
That is super awesome. So, usually I like to start out by tormenting my guests with the most open-ended question ever, so I'm going to do the same for you.
Oh,
Um,
hit me with it.
who are you today, Kylie?
Who am? Oh my goodness, you aren't kidding.
Exactly. I was not kidding.
I don't even know how to answer that. Like
I know.
who am I? I mean, God, I don't know.
You can
I
answer it however you want. What do you
I
like to do, or what do
what do I
you?
like to do? Okay, that makes it a little bit easier.
Okay, yeah.
What do I like to do? I mean, obviously, I don't know if you noticed, but I really enjoy photography. So, I know it's kind of
Yeah.
not it's very subtle, I would say. No, I'm just kidding. No, I very much enjoy anything artistic. Obviously, photography is more of my bend. I have been collecting like action figures and minis and that type of stuff since I was a kid. But ever since I was very young, I always loved like miniatures. I'd collect like the little GI Joes and like Playmobiles and Legos. I had tons and tons of Legos. But no, I mean, besides photography, I really enjoy. Gosh, this sounds like super. I don't know. Like I really love fitness stuff, and it makes it sound like super. I'm trying to think of the term. Like I was like full of myself. Like I'm not, but like I just super enjoy fitness stuff. It always sounds like one of those things that like you see on like a dating site where
Yeah.
it's just like hiking and then fitness, and I'm like I'm not like that.
I am so fit, guys. Trust me.
Yeah, yeah,
Let me
guys,
tell you about it.
seriously. So yeah, no. That's something I've always enjoyed too.
Yeah.
I love hiking, biking, like anything active, I really enjoy.
Mhm.
Besides that though, I'm like a huge like nerd when it comes to movies. The Lord of the Rings is my favorite. I can quote the whole movie and the book.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Which is your favorite? Like, are you watching the extended edition, like original trilogy? How do you feel about the Hobbits that came out? I
Okay,
want to hear more.
so the extended editions are the only editions that matter because they give
That's
you
fair.
more.
True.
I cannot watch the original like cinematic cut like for the theater because I'm like there's stuff missing, like it just feels weird.
Yep.
I own probably like every version of the Lord of the Rings like movies and books. Like I just collect
Mhm.
them. I still think I have the Fellowship of the Ring on VHS somewhere. I think it's yeah, I'm positive I
I
saved
like
it.
it.
It's like a
Yeah.
relic.
How do you feel about the Hobbit movies that came out? Because for me, I love the original trilogy. You know, I read The Hobbit and I loved that book.
Yeah.
But then the way they split it out into 3 was like I almost got tired of trying to go back to watch them because it was like an extended edition spread out over so long. But
Yeah.
maybe I just wasn't giving it a chance. So what are
So
your thoughts on it?
for me with it, it felt I mean, it makes sense in the grand scheme of things because The Hobbit was definitely more written towards children. So I feel
Mhm.
like the movie has more of a Disney-esque vibe, like a little bit more fairy tale-ish, where the Lord of the Rings are definitely more serious
Mhm.
and a little bit less silly.
That's true.
But I mean I love them for what they were. They definitely aren't the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but like I enjoy them. Like my brother loves all of the Lord of the Rings stuff, so almost every time he's over, it's like what we're watching. My brother and I actually growing up used to watch the Lord of the Rings movies every weekend for like 3 years.
No way.
All we did, yeah.
That's
Uh,
insane.
yeah, I don't know, we just always had it on. It was just like there was anytime we couldn't think of a movie we wanted to watch, we always would go for Lord of the Rings. And to this day, my brother and I are 7 years apart and we're like best friends. And he's 30 now and we still nothing has changed in that time. He comes over with his wife and we'll sit and watch Lord of the Rings.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
I hope his wife and your husband both like Lord of the
Oh yeah.
Rings
Oh yeah.
because that way.
Oh no, she loves it. Like her and I's goal has always been to our houses to look like the Hobbit, like the Hobbit holes in the Fellowship of the Ring. Like we
Yes.
want that level of cozy. So anytime
Mhm.
we describe our style, think of like Bilbo's house. That's our goal.
Have you ever had people ask you and they know nothing about Lord of the Rings and they're like, "What the hell are you talking about? Who is Bilbo?"
Yeah, a couple times, but honestly, I feel like the people I'm around, like most of the people I click with, are like even if they haven't seen the movies, they at least know who the characters are.
That's
Uh,
fair. Yeah.
yeah, but I've had that happen with Star Wars stuff before, and it's always
Mm.
I mean, just talking general, not knowing who like Obi-Wan Kenobi is. I had somebody I used to work with who didn't know who like Nicolas Cage was, and I was like, "But you're on the
Oh
internet,
my.
like, how do you not know?"
No kidding. Oh my word.
It's so
They
bizarre.
probably don't know who like Nickelback is or anything
No,
like that.
they've like never, and it's like they almost live in this weird like bubble of only knowing like a specific set of things and that's it. And it's so weird because like, I love pop culture and like I love, all kinds of stuff. So I even if I'm not like really big into it, I still at least know what it is.
Yeah, totally. Isn't the Lord of the Rings also doing a TV show coming up soon? Is that
Yes.
okay? What
I
are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I am hoping. I mean, the it looks like kind of what they're doing with it. They're definitely throwing like everything at it. Like they're
Mhm.
bringing out the big guns for it. And I think it's just because they know it's such a loved like franchise and it's a loved series for people, for years. And
Yeah.
I think they're trying to be careful with it. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I feel like I'll have to see more on it. I'm excited that they're still even doing Lord of the Rings stuff, just
Is
because.
it
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is it based on the Silmarillion? Is that what it's supposed
I
to be
think
off of?
so. I think they're going I can't remember what they said. It's definitely not like the Lord of the Rings, like the main books. I feel like it's something else. Like it could be like the War of the Ring, or like I said, Silmarillion, or like the Children of Hurin or something like that.
Mhm.
Or it could be something like a combo of all those. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's kinda it's crazy. They keep coming out with all these different things and, like, The Witcher,
Oh my gosh, yes.
series coming I assume you're a big Witcher fan.
The Witcher besides Zelda, is, like, my favorite. I don't know what it is about, like, when I started, getting into the series, I was kinda going through a really tough time, and for some reason, The Witcher just spoke to me. I loved the
Mhm.
lore, the grittiness of it. I love really gritty, like, monster movies and games and stuff like that, and, I just loved his character. I love the fact that he sounds like Batman when he talks. Like, I was like, "This is everything I want in a video game." I read all the books. I have, like, all, like, the statues and the figures. I've gotten to meet and talk with some of the people who actually worked on the game.
Oh my word, really?
Yeah, they're, like, the nicest people ever, truly.
Did you go over to CD Projekt Red or
So I know a couple of the people there. I don't know if you know who Mall Cosplay is. I've met him a few times. Him and his wife are the sweetest people. But I have been in contact with them for a while. I hopefully eventually will get to work with them like officially on some stuff. But I did
Yeah,
do the Geralt pictures that they I gave to them of the Nindroid, and they shared it on all their social media. They told me their office loved it. So
that's
that's
awesome.
like a crowning achievement for me because I love the company so much. But yeah, the Witcher, the stinking Witcher Netflix thing just dropped, and I was or trailer, I should say, and
Yeah,
I was n I was on the fence, but watching that trailer, they're going as dark as they should for the books, and honestly,
nice.
Henry looks phenomenal as Geralt, and I was worried. I was like, "Henry's really pretty, alright?" And then I saw him as Geralt, and I was like, "Alright, he did good. He looks like Geralt." I was very, very pleased with what I saw.
I still need to watch that trailer, but I've heard yeah,
It's
that's
yes.
good to hear. It seems like they're going the right direction with it.
Yes, like I said, some of their choices they pick with casting, I was a little confused. I was like, "All right." But after they dropped the trailer, the music, like everything feels like the Witcher world, which was my biggest fear. I was like, I want the atmosphere to feel right because I feel like if the
Yeah.
atmosphere is off, that the character, like it just won't all sync together, and it'll just be really weird.
Yeah, it's always there's always that worry that it's like, okay, this is just another one of those video game movies or video
Yes,
game,
yes.
based things just to try and get the money from it, but yeah,
Mhm.
hopefully they actually are taking it like a creative direction and all that sort of
That's
stuff.
definitely the vibe I get from it, 'cause that's always my fear too. Anytime I hear like I know
Mhm.
they're wanting to do like a Resident Evil, thing
Yeah,
from Netflix, which I've seen nothing on, but I kind of hope they take the same care that they have, at least from what I've seen with the Witcher trailer.
yeah,
Because Resident Evil is another one of my favorites. I would love to actually see done, in a series where they have more time to flesh out the story instead of cramming it in, a 2-hour movie, which
into a
I feel
movie,
like
yeah.
I feel like most people have kind of had to do. And unfortunately, it's kind of ruined a lot of the depth and lore within most, series, especially like, anime and that type stuff when they try to
Mhm.
do live adaptions of it. And it's just, let's make it a movie. And I'm like, you could make this into 3 seasons. Like,
It's crazy, it's crazy. I was gonna ask you really quickly, so you said you read all the Witcher books. I think The Last Wish, is that the first one? How were those books?
I cannot, okay. The order of them always confuses me because it's like, there's like some that go in order, and then there's one that's just short stories, which is technically
Mm,
like the first one, but you can read it really whenever, I believe.
okay.
Like honestly, I books have always been my thing. I've been collecting, besides figures, I have probably over 500 to 600 books just in my own personal collection of everything. I've just been.
Yeah.
It was what I got or would buy the most when I was a kid, and the Witcher books is just like they're very classic. The writing is done really well. I love like especially like I said, the short stories ones is probably my favorite. You can read them, I think, out of order in within that book, but no, it's just they're honestly great. They're like a perfect fantasy book. The sense of humor in it is great. Geralt is hilarious in the books. He's very like dry sense of humor,
I
very
like that.
witty.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's great because when you read it, especially since I've read it after, the games and stuff, I
Mhm.
obviously can hear everything in his voice, which just adds to it. So,
Totally.
oh yeah, it's great. They're really, really good.
Was it hard to not take in your perception from the game into the books of, like, Ciri and Yennefer and all that stuff? It's like, if
Yeah,
you have a preference.
it was kind of, but for the most part, I feel like the games did such a good job taking from like the books and stuff that like
Mhm.
it all kind of fit. So like the descriptions were pretty accurate. Obviously the games and the story and stuff kind of went a different direction than I think some of the book, or at least a little bit, like took some liberties on some stuff.
Hmm.
And I know like people, especially with the Netflix series, are like, why they can't get past the fact that it's not from the video game, and so they're like,
Yeah.
why does Geralt only have one sword? I'm like, well, he only had one in the book for a time, and people are like freaking out over it, and I'm like, no, the game and the while very similar, that there's going to be some differences, especially in like like I said, in some of like the weapon stuff, the way like
Yeah.
Geralt looks in some instances, and yeah, but people can't see past that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, probably most people have experienced that franchise through the games as
Oh,
opposed to
oh,
the books,
absolutely.
I assume. So, besides fantasy books, what in 500 book collection, that's insane. What other types of books do you like to read?
So I'll definitely a lot of like I said, fantasy ones. A
Yeah.
lot of them. I have a lot of art books too from just like gaming stuff, but I collect a lot of old like just collectible fairy tale books. Like
Oh, okay.
I have like Hans Christian Andersen. I have Brothers Grimm, like the that
Mhm.
series. I'm trying to think what else I have. Just a lot of old traditional fables, like the ones where the Little Mermaid came from, Snow
Mhm.
White, like those ones, like the old Disney ones, but obviously the original stories are much more terrifying.
True.
I
Yeah.
read through them when I was younger because I'm like, oh, this is what the Little Mermaid was based off of, and then you read the actual story and you're like, this is horrifying. They definitely made the Disney movie a lot more lighthearted.
No joke. Yeah. I I love hearing that you have such a huge collection. Like I worked at a bookstore for a while
Mhm.
and any of the money I made there just felt like it went back into buying more
Oh
books
yeah,
and
that
buying
was
more
yeah,
books.
that definitely.
It's an addiction, but it's like you kind of feel good about it because it's like, okay, books are good for me. I'm like learning from this or I'm improving my
Right,
reading
right.
skills and they look pretty on a shelf.
Oh,
So,
exactly. I mean, my entire house, I just have stacks of like old books.
mhm.
Most of my shelves are, like I said, like collector edition of like I have a lot of the Dungeons and Dragons lore books, like my favorite, like the Forgotten Realms with like Dritz and stuff. I was like a huge didn't even know it because I didn't play D&D back then, but I didn't realize it was
Mhm.
from the same world. And my husband gets super into Dungeons and Dragons and stuff. I was like, I know all of these characters, and I'm like I was like, oh, I read all this, like I know what's going on.
That would be kind of cool, a cool realization.
Yeah, yeah, it's same with Monster Hunter. I played a lot of the older Monster Hunter, and then when World came out, he got really into it, and I was like, yeah, I know all these monsters. I said I used to play this by myself all the time, and yeah, so I'm like waiting for the next thing that he's gonna get into that I forgot that I knew everything about it.
Uh, I've been wanting to get into Dungeons and Dragons. Do you guys play that pretty often? Do you have any recommendations for someone looking to get into that?
Yes. So my husband actually DMs, and he's a
Okay.
writer. He was like really good when he was in college. He did writing like for
Mhm.
I can't remember what classes he did for it, but so he actually has written like our entire campaign. He's also an insane painter. So like all the minis and stuff we
Really?
use. Yeah, I'll have to send you some pics. He's like an
Yeah.
incredible painter. But he makes all the stuff for it, and like we try to do it at least once to twice a month. He has a group that he's
Mhm.
just a player in, that him and like a few of our friends go and play like every other Saturday. That's actually where he is right now.
Nice.
But no, it's super fun. Like we all get into it. Like I said, my husband really gets into it in the sense of like we have like sound effects and music that like fits where the area we're in. Like if we're in a tavern, they'll have like tavern music. So it feels so
That's
real.
amazing.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's fun too because like we get to build like little props for it. He made like it's like an old parchment like wanted poster for something that had to do with one of our quests. And I have it like sitting up on like one of my shelves because it looks super cool.
That's amazing. I
Yeah,
like it.
he's incredible. It's funny because our other friends who have DM'd, they're like, "Man, I feel really shown up right now."
Feel so bad.
I know, and my husband laughs. He's like, it's just something he's very passionate about. He loves the
Yeah.
writing. He loves like getting to watch us try to figure stuff out, and
Mhm.
it makes me super happy to see him like super into something that is really creative. And honestly, like it's really it's difficult to do to kind of piece everything
Yeah.
together. He's a huge fan of like Critical Role, which is what he kind of got me into.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's a podcast, right?
Yeah, Critical Role. It's a podcast, and then they have like it's like a YouTube or Twitch thing where you watch all of them play.
Okay.
It's all the voice actors. It's like Matt Mercer. Uh,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, and Matt
Yeah.
Mercer's the DM, and it's so much fun to watch because they're all obviously doing voices. They're all very funny and creative, and
Hmm.
it's an absolute blast to watch it. And that's kind of what really got me into wanting to play. And it is so much fun to play.
Yeah, we've been my wife and I have been playing Gloomhaven with some friends, and
Oh,
so
that's
it's like a tabletop game,
yeah.
and it kind of incorporates some role playing elements,
Hmm.
and I think playing that with her has been like it's made me want to do some sort of campaign with some friends.
Yes.
But it's definitely, I think one of the hardest things for me at least is like finding a group of people who want to commit to this and like do a campaign together. But I had a friend mentioned that I should try to do like a one-off, mission or one-off type thing, just to try it out and see how I like it. But
Yeah, just to kind of like get an idea of like if you like, 'cause
hmm
kind of what we did. We're very lax with it, and it's hilarious because like we all of us have different ideas for stuff.
hmm
Some of us like make jokes about our characters, and it honestly like it's become just kind of like with our group, it really does feel like the movies and stuff. It feels like the Fellowship of the Ring. Like that's literally what it feels
yeah.
like with everybody. And it honestly, I recommend it a lot, even if like you're not really big into that type of stuff. It's just fun to do. I know
hmm
everybody thinks Dungeons and it's super nerdy. It's like it's real hard and it's real like
yeah.
intricate. And I'm like, it's as intricate and as crazy as your DM wants it to be. And like making it, like I said, my husband makes it pretty lax, just because some of us are more introverted. And
hmm
I think this helps all of us kind of get out of that a little bit.
yeah.
He even does it with his dad. His dad, he loves like fantasy stuff, and his
hmm
dad is kind of learning like, hey, like this, you can literally do anything in this. And because you're so used when you play games, there's obviously a lot of strict rules, and not that there aren't some in Dungeons and Dragons, but you can do something silly, like you can get it. Like my husband has made me an item that's like particular to stuff that I like. He actually made me, my character is a ranger, witcher. He actually got a witcher class because he knows they're my favorite.
Nice.
And like I have a pet, it's a huge elk, and his personality and traits are very similar to my dog Knox. Um, so it's like it's very fun to just kind of bring, and like he brings silly elements into it of things that like he knows, some of us are fans of. Like he's getting ready to do something for one of our players that it's something from one of his favorite games. I can't say it though, because if my friend watches this and I spoil it, my husband's gonna kill me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. We've touched on a couple elements, but where did your gaming journey start? Like, what got you into this originally? It sounds like you've been into collecting figures and gaming for a long time, but like,
Mhm.
what pushed you into that, and what did it look like?
I got really into video games when I was probably, I'd say maybe like 4 or 5. We did not have a lot of money growing up, so I didn't really have any systems, and if I did, it was like old system. I was always like 10 to 15 years behind like current stuff.
Hmm
Um, my uncle gave us a Super Nintendo, and that was all I had. That was it.
hmm
I had like he only had like sports games for it, I think. But one of my friends introduced me to A Link to the Past, and we used to play it in her grandma's basement. And that was kind of my first like really getting into gaming. I was like, I really love this. I love that there's like these little puzzles and this little world, and I like just loved just the concept of it. And then after
hmm
that, a couple of friends like let me borrow their other like Nintendo games. So I had like Donkey Kong Country, Mortal Kombat, Super Mario World was like my favorite. I have beaten that game
Yes.
so many times. But that really started it. Obviously, I was younger. I knew I liked games, but it was just one of those, hey, everybody plays. But I think
hmm
the kind of turning point for me, when I knew like this is like I want to do something with this in whatever capacity, was when I played probably Ocarina of Time at my friend's house in the N64. I was like obsessed with Link. I was like, this is so cool because I already loved elves and stuff from Lord of the Rings.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, you can ride a horse. I was like, you can shoot a bow. I was like, this is amazing. And I was obsessed with it for years. I had like all the Zelda action figures from, oh gosh, it was like when KB Toys, I think, was still around.
Oh my word.
Yeah, and like GameStop would sell the Link figures, and they
Mhm.
had like a set of them from Ocarina of Time. So I used to like pretend I was Link and stuff when I was a kid. I lived near the woods, so like I would make like a little makeshift bow, and I would shoot sticks because I didn't have arrows. It was very very dorky.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just my neighbors probably thought I was crazy because I was like probably 6 or 7 running around in the woods nearby, like pretending to fight like Stalfos and stuff like that. um, but that honestly I feel like is what really kind of I knew that like I really loved this. I didn't know, obviously, at 7, 8 years old, I'm like, yeah, I want to make a career of this, like
Mhm.
I wasn't at that point. I think when like career stuff kind of hit was when I again, probably another Zelda game, Twilight Princess came out.
Mhm.
Also around that time, Wind Waker was another one I played a lot as well with my brother. And I used to get so hyped for E3. I would like count down the time. We had one computer that we all shared that barely worked, but I'd always hop in there to watch E3. And I remember telling my brother that one day I was going to go to E3. And
Mhm.
I think I was 14 at the time. And the first time I got invited out to E3 a few years ago, I remember texting him, telling him like I finally did it, like it happened. Like I never in a million
Yeah.
years thought it would happen. But that was like the big thing, and it's so funny because like obviously getting to go to E3 is absolutely amazing every year, but that was just the
Yeah.
start. For me that was peak, but
Yeah.
I've had so much other stuff happen since then, and honestly at this point, like the way stuff happens, I'm just like, what's going to happen next? I fly by the seat of my pants. Like I don't I am not like, oh, I've got like this 7-year plan. No, it's like whatever hits me. My life could change, in a
Yeah.
few hours. Um, but yeah, I think Twilight Princess and that was when I knew career wise that, I want to do something in gaming. I don't know what. But I
Yeah.
know like I wanted to either work, doing because I actually used to do concept art. I wanted to
Okay.
do something like that, something artistically. I've never really been big into like streaming and that kind of stuff as much. Like I
Mhm.
have done it a few times, but I really only stream on like my friends' channels because that way, if people do want to see me, they'll go to my friends' channels and support them.
Yeah.
I don't really have my own. But yeah, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I started taking pictures of like my collection. I had a really crappy iPhone that barely
When
worked.
was this that you kinda started taking pictures of your collection?
It was, I think I was 19. It was when I moved to Ohio.
Okay.
Kyle and I had just started dating, and I started I'm trying to think of what exactly it was, like 2013 or 14. I'll have to look.
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah, I started taking pictures of just whatever little things I had. I did like little flat lays of,
Mhm.
I'll have to look back too because they looked like crap, but but I used to take pictures of like my gaming collection, anything, I would get, but I really love to take pictures of figures because I would take them outside. There was woods nearby as well. Living in Ohio, there's woods absolutely everywhere, so it was kind of nice.
Yeah.
But I would pack up my little figures and I'd go and take pictures of them in the woods or whatever, and just post them on Instagram. And people really liked them. There wasn't really anybody doing that,
Mhm.
especially with like Nintendo stuff. And it kind of started to take off from there. And it was just one of those, oh, this is fun. Like, like,
Yeah.
this is neat. And then, obviously I kind of like Good Smile came out with their Zelda stuff, which being a huge toy collector, I've dealt with a lot of really crappy action figures. Like GI Joes, they had like the rubber band joints.
Yeah.
Everything else was usually cheaply made. Good Smile was the first company that made figures that were like legit, and I was obsessed with them. And that they came out
Yeah.
with Toon Link, the little Nendoroid of him. And
Uh-huh.
I remember Kyle getting him for me, and he like I was obsessed with him. I love that he came with little accessories. I took this thing with me everywhere.
That's
And
amazing.
he was like my first figure from there that I really started to photograph. And ever since that, like then, I feel like that's when things kind of started to take off a bit. I would post them. I'd post like Amiibo, and it was when I started doing some of the Amiibo pictures that someone from Nintendo contacted me asking if they could use actually my first picture they ever shared was of Toon Link with Little Makar.
Did you like scream into a
Oh, I
pillow
did.
or something when you
I
got that
cried,
request?
like, for
That's amazing.
why like, I screamed. My husband thought I was hurt, and I told him what happened, and I was literally, like, just, like, crying because like, this was a dream of mine. I never
Yeah.
my goal was never to, like, "Oh, I'm gonna work for Nintendo," but it was, like, one of those things in the back of
Mhm.
my head. I was like, "Man, if this happened, that'd be insane." And then from there, like, stuff kinda just snowballed. Like, it just they
Yeah.
wanted to use my stuff more, and then they asked me to be an ambassador, and it's been one heck of a ride, and I'm so thankful that out of everybody, they saw something in me. Then, and they told
Yeah.
me it wasn't just the quality of my work, but it was just the way I presented myself in the community, and talked to people and everything. And it meant a ton to me because I've always been, you know, I always tell people, I was like, I'm a big dork. I'm very low key. I was like, I don't think anything of myself. I was like, I
Yeah.
had people tell me they're afraid to come say hi to me, like, if they see me at E3. I was like, even
Mhm.
if I don't know who you are right away, like, I'm gonna be excited to see you.
No, I mean, that's probably part of the reason that you were perfect for it, though, to be kind of an ambassador for Nintendo is because there's so many people in the industry or, content creators who just have insanely huge
Like a
egos,
god
and that,
complex. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it doesn't help anyone. And we're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy the games that we like, and
Exactly.
we don't need people who are just incredibly self-absorbed.
My biggest thing, like the reason I really started to get into doing these pictures is people would tell me that my photos, like, made their day, made them happy. And if somebody who's
Mhm.
dealt with a lot of, mental health issues, and I, deal with depression, I've been on, medication for a long time, that struck a chord with me because all I ever really want to do is just I want people to feel any source of happiness, anything, any small thing,
Mhm.
because of the stuff that goes on in this world and daily life. I have been through some serious stuff. I don't usually get real, personal or write a lot of it on social media, but I've been through quite a bit. And I know what it's like to feel alone, and I know what it's like to kind of just feel like you don't have like anything, any happiness, any source of whatever. And the fact that I saw
Yeah.
people reacting to just these silly little toy photos I took that just, like, this made my day, that it pushed me to want to do more, and just kind of bring this light into the community. Cause I know, especially in the gaming community back then, it was all very kind of hostile. Everybody was
Mhm.
trying to be better than everybody else. And then here's dorky me with my toy photos, like, just trying to make people happy. And
Yeah.
that's always been kind of the core of why I do this. There's been so many times I've wanted to quit out of just frustration with stuff. I've dealt with some pretty nasty people online,
Mhm.
and I've dealt with some pretty crappy stuff, and it's made me want to just completely delete everything. But then I've
Yeah.
had people email me, like, I have my business email up, but it never usually happens. But I've had people emailing me, sending these long messages about how my pictures have helped them get through their depression, and actually push them to want to pursue a dream career instead of just settling. And that's another
Yeah.
thing. Like, I kind of tell people, I worked in some really crappy jobs just trying to, keep working on the art side of things, hoping maybe, I could finally make this my full-time job. And it took years, but I finally
Yeah.
did it. It's possible. And that's something I always tell people. I was like, you gotta put yourself out there. But you don't have to lose yourself in the process of doing that,
Hmm. Yeah.
I know a lot of people, they call it selling out. It's not always that,
Yeah.
but it's just, I have very much tried to stay myself since the beginning. And, I always try to, answer messages. Like, I'm never going to be or think, especially of myself, of being, better just because of a following or who I work for or who I'm friends with. That's never going to
Yeah.
change just because, I mean, some people have told me they're intimidated because of what I do. And I'm just like, just because I, work in this or have this job or whatever that's, you know, uh, rare or whatever you want to call it. I was like, doesn't mean I'm going to think any less of you. I was like, you're working
Yeah.
hard, you're doing the best that you can, and honestly, that I admire more than anything.
I have found just the more that I've reached out to people, yourself, Brian Shea, other people from the industry, it's like oftentimes there's a sense of intimidation as someone who's not a huge, not, followed by thousands and thousands of
Mhm.
people, but like you realize most of the time they're just people like you and they're more than happy to talk a lot of the
Oh, of
times. And
course.
more often than not, I've had great responses from people, or people who are more than happy to talk or hang out or whatever it is. And that's there needs to be people like that in the industry, because yeah, it's that's so cool to hear that you've had that sort of response to your work,
Mhm.
and hearing that you've brightened people's days. I've definitely experienced that from your pictures as well. It's like
Oh.
you go to your profile, and like I'll go through the pictures with my wife when we see a new one, and there's something about them that is just so I it's so hard to describe, but they're incredibly adorable, and it's like you can't help but squeal or something if my
Yeah.
voice was capable of squealing. But it's like all these tiny little things. Actually, can you describe a little bit about what your pictures kind of look like for anyone who's like, I've never seen Captain Dangerous's pictures before. Like what does it look like for you to take them, and what do they actually look like?
So, I would say the best way to describe it, it's kind of I would say if people have heard of Animal Crossing, that's kind of what my pictures look like. Just with various Nintendo characters, but it's honestly just miniature sets of either worlds from the games or just of my own memories. A lot of my pictures
Mhm.
actually are based on childhood memories I've had. I'm trying to think of a couple in particular that I'd have to actually look through, but
Sure,
that like
yeah.
stood out because a lot of them have to do with like my brother and I did, or brothers and I did everything together, and I've done
Mhm,
some pictures that were kind of based on, you know, some of the stuff that we did. Uh, Especially like my youngest brother. He's the one that like we played Wind Waker together all the time. He still remembers all of it. He's 18 now, but he still
mhm.
for his birthday I gave him one I have the Mario hat and he has the Luigi one. And to this day he still takes it with him every time he comes to visit me. And it's like the sweetest thing ever. Oh, here one of the ones I did of Kirby looking for sand dollars on the beach. My mom and I, years ago, we had a trip to Florida, and her and I used to get up really early in the morning and walk the beach to try to find sand dollars. And I still
Mhm.
have a ton of them from it. But I actually sent that picture to my mom, and she's like, she immediately said, she's like, "Oh, is this?" She's like, "Is that just like when we would go search for sand dollars when we'd go to Florida?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, she remembered." And like all the garden sets are for my mom. My mom is the one that got me into plants and gardening. My mom loves life. She loves that stuff. And
Mhm.
so I actually made a little mini greenhouse picture like set for her. And she like freaked out over it. I always like try to make her little plants and stuff for her to keep. She
Yeah,
actually has she has some of my pictures I did for her. And she has like my
yeah.
little minis around it. And I tease her about it all the time because it looks like a little shrine. And I was like, "Mom," I was like she's like, "Yeah." I call it my Kylie shrine." I was like, "Oh my gosh, Mom."
Oh
Yeah,
my,
it's
yeah.
very such a mom thing. It's very funny.
I was gonna ask you, like, where do you get your inspiration? But it sounds like you get a ton of inspiration from your own memories,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm always impressed by the sheer amount of volume of pictures that you put out. I don't know how many exactly, but like every time you put out a photo set, you're putting out multiples, different shots and all that stuff, and I'm always impressed because, like, for me, I don't have like my wife takes the pictures for me, and I usually set up what I want done,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's like it's hard to get like 3 pictures a week for me sometimes, so, like, seeing yours, it's like,
Oh.
"Oh my word, this is incredible." She's, like, getting so many amazing pictures out and all that sort of stuff.
I thank you so much for saying that because to me, often, like, I tell people this too. A lot of times, like, ask, they're like, you know, how do you keep up the motivation? Like, where do you, you know, get like the drive to keep doing it? And I was like, honestly,
Mhm,
sometimes, and I tell people to do this, I was like, I'll sometimes take a few photos in like a day, and then I won't take any for like a few weeks. Like I was like, I honestly
mhm,
sometimes like you get so burnt out constantly trying to do a picture every day or whatever. And it's so funny because like I'll do like the times where I'll feel like wanting to do a bunch of pictures, I'll have taken a bunch and then I forget that I did them. Like I was scrolling through, I was like, oh my gosh, I took this back in July and never posted it. Like I'll like get in these like spurts of just wanting to do like a bunch of them, and I
Yeah,
constantly, anytime I have an idea for something or a picture or even just a concept, I have notes all over the place. I have
mm,
like a notebook that I write all my picture ideas down, and I like write down the highlights of like what I want. Sometimes I'll change the characters, but anytime I have an idea, I was like, oh, this would be really neat. And I have friends too that were like, oh, you should do this, or you know, my husband will too. He's like, you know, it'd be really cute is if you did this, and so I kind of just take ideas from like I said, either memories, stuff I've been doing.
yeah.
Honestly, like a lot of my pictures are just little tiny snapshots of my life with Nintendo characters.
How would you say your style has changed or evolved over all these years doing these pictures?
So when I started, it was definitely more like dark, moody, and not that I didn't like that or still do it, but I enjoy the vibrant, but soft colors. Like I love natural light, so I feel like
Mhm.
I've definitely added more of a vibrancy to my photos that I feel like is more eye catching, but also fits the characters. Like obviously. If I'm doing like, for instance, the when I did the Witcher photos, Geralt
Mhm.
obviously is more of a dark, like gritty setting. So that's what I did. I did like a tavern because that's where you play Gwent and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of the Nintendo characters, their environments are very bright or definitely more of like a cartoony feel. Where even if it's dark, there's still some color there. And I feel like as I progressed doing photography and doing sets, that's something I've tried to implement more, especially into characters with brighter worlds.
Mhm.
Some of the Monster Hunter ones I did, same thing. It's still a bright, colorful world, but it definitely has a bit of grit to it. So when I edit or am building an environment, I try to be mindful of that. So yeah, I would definitely say more vibrancy in color and stuff. I've kind of added more to my pictures, which is kind of funny because I'm also I do weddings,
Mhm.
I do people photography. I do shoot real people.
Yeah.
They're like big action figures that can move on their own. And
Uh,
I've been doing that for a few years now. One of my friends who actually did the Majora's Mask shoot with me, she's a phenomenal photographer. Her name's Brooke
yeah.
Townsend. Yeah, she's local here, and she has taught me a lot just in doing that type of stuff. And I sometimes am a second shooter for her, and I've traveled up in northern Ohio to shoot some beautiful fancy weddings that are way out of
Mhm.
my budget, but it was very fun to shoot.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that my style more with people is definitely darker and more moody. So it's very funny when
Mhm.
people see like kind of the contrast to it. They love the moodiness, but they're like they look and they see how colorful and stuff my toy and miniature pictures are. And I'm like, well, if I did it all the same, I was like, I'd probably get really burnt out if I did the same editing on absolutely everything.
Totally. Do you make the backgrounds or the sets for all of your pictures?
I do.
That's incredible. How do you do that?
So some of the ones, the outdoor ones, are actually just shot in my yard and I build the environments around it. But all
Mhm.
of the miniature sets, like the rooms, some of the like the ones with the trees and stuff, like I made all of those. So I have like a one of the closets up here, off of my office. It's just storage, and I because of
Mhm.
my cats, I have to keep all of my dioramas up in a closed room because one of my cats loves to steal my miniatures and hoard them like a
Oh my
dragon.
gosh. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I have found some of like I was missing like one of like my miniature pumpkins. I found it. He hides them behind the furnace. Yeah. He also stole my husband's ring, his wedding ring, and had it hiding there. And that's how he found.
How?
Yeah, he found it the other day, and he saw my cat take off with something, and then he
Yeah.
followed him to the basement, and that's where he went. There's this little pile of stuff, and I was like, oh
Oh
my
my
goodness.
gosh.
Oh, so I had no idea he'd been hoarding it. I thought he'd just take it and lose it, but no, he had a little pile of stuff that he would take.
Wow. So what's it look like for you working with Nintendo now? Because obviously you've kind of taken that step in partnership with them. What does
Mhm.
that actually look like? Like I saw you going to I think Tokyo or something for the Luigi's Mansion 3 release.
Oh, um,
Was that Tokyo? I don't know if
oh,
that was.
it was LA. I wish it was
Oh,
Tokyo. That would have been
oh man.
awesome.
I was way off.
Yeah.
Okay, but like you're traveling for Nintendo and doing all
Yeah.
this sort of stuff. What's that look like for you?
So, especially with like just the ambassador stuff in general, I can't. There's some stuff I can't say, but I can talk about the ambassador
Sure, sure.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the ambassador stuff, it's really neat. I feel like they've kind of narrowed down some of the ambassadors. I think there's maybe a total of 50 of us, maybe, but I feel like the
Mhm.
core group, there's probably about 30 to 35 of us. But they flew us all out there for the Luigi's Mansion event, and it was incredible because I know I've been following some of these people for forever, and we've only talked online, but it honestly, like, we all went and hung out. We're all meeting for the first time. Like it literally just felt like a huge family, which is I feel like how it should be, and it's the
Yeah.
greatest honor to be a part of something like that. And all of us, have like we remain in touch and we hang out outside of like Nintendo event things, but for the most part, like I get really neat projects I get to work on for like Nintendo social or like a launch event.
Mhm.
And honestly, that's probably the gist of it is that, but just getting to
Yeah.
work with a core group of creators who are huge Nintendo fans, And just get to work with the people at Nintendo in general is just incredible. They are the kindest and sweetest people I have ever had the pleasure of working with. They all like, anytime I get to see them, it's honestly just like visiting family. It's wonderful.
That's incredible. I read in the article that you did with Brian that your husband also collects figures. Is
Yes.
that true? And do you like take pictures of his as well,
Mhm.
or is it like, um, eh, how many do you guys have?
Oh
You
my
you
goodness.
collect a ton of books. You
Whew.
collect a ton of figures. What's it look like in your house?
So I have like 300 and some Nendroids,
Oh my
I think.
gosh.
And then all together, oh my goodness. So there's at least probably 600, if not more. So he
Do you just
collects the Figma mainly,
okay?
and I get the Nendroid version of it. But we also collect like he's a huge Gundam fan. Like we have Gundam everywhere. Gundam, he loved like him and I love like mech anime, and we love like anime
Okay.
in general. I don't post about it as much because it's more like anime is like my thing that like I don't want to like constantly like post about like Nintendo. I share
Yeah.
with everybody, but no, I have tons of like anime figures. I have a ton of video game statues, like from all
Yeah.
the collector's editions. I think I own all the Assassin's Creed statues. I
Those
have
are impressive statues.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're beautiful. I have the like the Halo ones. I have some of the Zelda ones from Good Smile too.
Hmm.
I have a few from Overwatch. Some from I have like I'm actually looking around the room right now. There's a few
Are they all just are all of your figures displayed, or is it just like
most of them.
your favorites? Okay.
I would say most of them. I'll have to send you a picture of what like my office looks like and then his office because we put shelves in his office so we could put up because he's got a lot of like Monster Hunter statues. And then
Yeah.
mine are mainly like my Nindroid and like miniatures, and then my favorite statues. So yeah, between the two of us, we have quite a bit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What does gaming look like for you today? Because I'm sure you're super busy with all this other stuff, but like what when you do game, what do you tend to kind of gravitate towards?
So I I play like currently I'm playing Luigi's Mansion 3 and it is
Hmm.
absolutely the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It
I'm
looks
obsessed with
that way.
oh, it's adorable. But I typically gaming wise really like especially with Switch stuff, if it's not like a single player game like I'm playing Smash online with my friends or
Hmm.
Mario Kart or like when I had just threw a big Halloween party and all of us were playing like multiplayer Luigi's Mansion. We were playing Mario Kart, Smash, and like all their really fun games. Overcooked is another great one to play.
Yes.
But what I play probably the most is honestly Monster Hunter. My husband and I play together. We have a group of friends that we all hop online a couple times during the week and play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a blast. I would say Monster Hunter probably is what I play the most until gosh, what's getting ready to come out? I'm
Too
thinking,
many things.
yeah, there's Cyberpunk,
Death Stranding.
Death
Oh,
Stranding,
Cyberpunk. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, I'm so excited for. I watched. They had like a closed demo, like demo thing in like a closed room at E3.
Yeah.
And I just the gameplay, like it's everything I love. I love cyberpunk stuff. I love like that type futuristic feel. And I've wanted a game like this for years. And I feel like they
Yeah.
finally did like the cyberpunk genre justice. So
It
that
looks amazing.
yeah, that's one I'm definitely really excited for. Obviously, we have Pokemon coming out here soon.
Hmm.
Gonna lose hours of my life on that.
How have you and your husband liked the expansion for Monster Hunter World?
Love it. Honest, like I really hope they continue to do more stuff like this. Iceborne is
Hmm.
gorgeous. It's the monsters are really, really cool, really unique. They brought back Zinogre, who's a fan favorite.
Yeah.
And I honestly the game is just gorgeous in itself, but I love that they added a beautiful like winter world. And I
Mm.
love that they have like the cute little the palicos are my favorite, the little kitties.
They're adorable.
Yeah, my
Oh
palico
my
looks
gosh.
just like my cat Jack.
For someone who hasn't played the Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter games before, is it a good one to get into,
Yes.
or is it okay?
I feel like World kind of they smoothed over a lot of the kind of crappy aspects of the older ones. The online is way better.
Hmm.
Everything just feels a lot smoother. I've played since Try,
Hmm.
and like I didn't play Try as much simply because I really enjoy playing this game more with people than by myself, and the online for Try just was not good.
Mm.
So being able to play World, the way they have the system set up, the way that like the weapon upgrades and everything, I just feel like it's much more streamlined. So for somebody who has never played Monster Hunter, World is definitely like a great one to kind of just get an idea, get all the good stuff from all the other Monster Hunter worlds and all the kinks, fixed out and everything. And
Yeah.
that's basically what World is. And I've had so many friends like wanting to get Iceborne and start playing because, they see us play. And honestly, it's always really hard for me to get into certain online multiplayers. But this, like, I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it looks amazing, and it's so fun finding games that you can play with friends and
Mhm.
do that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Also, playing with your spouse, like I we recently got a Switch Lite for my wife, and we've been playing Stardew Valley together, and
Oh, that's
it's
precious.
always so fun playing games with your spouse. It's such a
Oh,
great way to connect and do all that sort of
for
stuff.
sure.
So, the way I want to round out the episode is I like to do this thing with guests where I have them create a dream mashup game.
Okay.
Usually I say that Nintendo's on the phone and, they want you to pitch a
Oh,
game,
because you want
but
to pitch. Okay,
you've
I think I've actually prepared for this before
oh, okay.
because my friends and I have talked about this.
But it doesn't have to be a Nintendo game. And so the main elements I'm hoping to get from you is I want a character,
Okay.
a weapon. What's your main weapon? Where's the game going to be set? What's the location? What's the genre and the soundtrack? So we'll start with the characters. So who would you have as your main character for this game?
Okay, so like my favorite style typically, I love, like I said, I love cyberpunk, but I also love when it's mixed. It's like old world and new world mixed. Honestly,
Hmm.
a good example of that is Horizon Zero Dawn. They have some
Yeah.
technology, but it's still primitive. So that's kind of, I think, what the main character would be something like that.
Okay. Yeah. So then, what would the weapon be for this person?
I like the idea of like a. I'm thinking I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, so I'm like going big here. But I think like like a lance or something different because everybody's got a sword, they got a bow. I think something like
Yeah.
that would be kind of neat. Like a I'm trying to think of, I don't know if you played Final Fantasy 15, but Noctis
I
has
haven't.
this
No.
sweet, yeah, he's got like this sweet spear. I can't remember what it's actually called, but that would be actually kind of like dope to have, especially.
Is it like a gigantic spear,
Yes, of course. I mean,
anime
Final
style?
Fantasy,
Yeah.
it has
Okay.
to be huge.
Okay. Okay.
It's like the Buster Spear instead of the Buster Blade.
Yes. No kidding. Okay. So character in this with this gigantic spear, where would it be located?
Hmm. I love post-apocalyptic stuff, so I definitely think like a ruined world.
What would be like the mix of the old world and new world in this
So
post-apocalyptic
I feel
world?
like it's futuristic, but we've gone back to like the primitive times, but we still have some
Okay.
concept of technology.
Okay.
So yeah, think like that. I honestly, I would say one of the Terminator movies was kind of like that, but I don't remember which one it was. There's been so many.
There have been. Okay, and then what would be the genre of this game?
I love JRPGs, but I feel like it should be
Yes.
a mix. I'm like I said, I'm still feeling the Final Fantasy vibe a little bit, especially with
Yeah.
that's the look I've got in my head. Okay, so I feel like it would be probably like 15, where there is some turn-based aspect to it, but it's still open world. So like you can,
Okay.
or if you've ever played Crisis Core,
I
um,
haven't.
oh, okay, it's like turn-based kind of, or I think Dragon Quest
Okay.
is kind of the same way too.
So a sort of hybrid of JRPG with
Yes,
this kind of open
yes.
world. Okay. I like it. What is one of your favorite JRPGs or like of as of late what's been a JRPG that you've been
As of late,
loving?
ooh,
Either way, you could say favorite or
I
as of
was
late.
gonna say favorite forever will probably be like honestly any of the Final Fantasy games like 7 to 10. Like I love
Mhm.
all, and like I love Final Fantasy Tactics too, were my favorites. They
Mhm.
actually what got me into just JRPGs in general. I have not really gotten to play like Dragon Quest. It's like it's one of those games. It's like it looks amazing. All my friends have been able to play it, but I just don't have the time to put into it.
Yeah.
Plus, we have like Fire Emblem.
Have you been playing Three Houses at all?
Yes, my husband and I both.
Yes. What school or not school, what
I chose Golden Deer at first,
okay.
and then
Yeah.
he was playing through my other file, and I cannot for the life of me remember what he picked. It was probably like Black Eagles or something like that.
Okay.
I'll have
Yeah.
to ask, but um, yeah, it's funny because between all of us ambassadors, because we all play Fire Emblem, we
Yeah.
always jokingly have this like weird stigma between all of us. They're like, "Which house did you pick?" And we're like, "Well, we can't be friends anymore because
There's like
of
this
this house." Yeah,
there's this judgment of whatever house the other person
yeah,
picked.
like when
Yes.
we were all hanging out together at one of our friends' house, and that's literally said, they're like, "You picked Golden Deer, like you're dead to me." It's so
I
funny.
feel like Golden Deer is okay.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like I would judge someone for picking Blue Lions,
See, yeah,
but I don't
nobody.
know.
I don't think anybody there was. I think it was all. I'm pretty sure it was like all black eagles, golden deer. I don't know if anybody was blue lions there, but yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Pokemon Go, where everybody
Yeah,
was like, team instinct, team like there was like the two teams that tolerated each other, and then everybody
and
like,
then Valor.
yeah, everybody hated
Yeah.
Valor.
Yep,
That's exactly what it's
exactly.
like.
So true. Okay, so to round this out, what would be the soundtrack that you would have for this game? And if you'd rather pick a composer, that's all right as
Ooh,
well.
composer. That's tough. I don't know. Like, I don't know who composed the music for, oh man.
You can just tell me like I want music like from this game.
Yeah, I want music from like what sounds like from Tron. So like Daft Punk.
Ooh, that would be
Because
amazing.
like Daft Punk is probably like my favorite. Like that album for the for Tron is like my favorite. Oh my gosh! Like I have it on vinyl. I have the CD. Like I absolutely love it.
Well, I think this game sounds amazing. You have closer ties to Nintendo, so I'll let you pitch that to them.
Okay, all right.
Usually I would talk with them on the phone, but
Okay, right,
you're a little
right.
bit closer with them, so yeah.
I'll email them right after this. Oh,
Okay,
that.
perfect. Well, Kylie, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. This was an incredibly fun conversation.
Oh my gosh,
Really
of
appreciate it.
course. I'm so honored that you asked me to. I mean, anytime. I absolutely love doing this stuff. I'm always down to talk video games and art and all this stuff.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. It was a ton of fun. Thanks also to the rest of you for listening to this week's Roundtable episode. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about the podcast. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in game.